The synagogue of Satan used Hitler as their puppet. He was the puppet of the Jews. But this is nonsense because he killed the Jews, will say people who don't know what they're talking about. Listen, as Caiaphas said, it is better for one man to die than that the whole nation of Israel perish. Jews are willing to kill their own in order to advance their collective interest. And Hitler served their interests because he created Israel. He was the founding father of Israel, more than Theodor Herzl. The Disney version of history, however, is what people believe and refuse to question because people are stupid and they don't deserve the truth. They don't seek the truth. Dan Snow, a regurgitator of mainstream history, for example, will tell you, Brits are heroes. But if you show him a concentration camp victim of the British, well, he'll turn a blind eye because he doesn't want the truth. Hitler used the swastika, of course. Now here's the real meaning of that. It's a reference to Venus, Venus in Latin, which rotates differently than other planets, representing rebellion. And who is the biggest rebel in all of history? Satan. Venus is a symbol for Satan also in that Lucifer means light bearer, hence brightest, like the brightest planet. The swastika represents rotation. So it could be seen like a fan or like scythes. Depends on the direction. And my videos on Hinduism as satanic proves either way it's a satanic symbol. Another match to Satan by Venus is its pattern in the sky as seen here. Or its pattern in space, rather. It's the pentagram, a reference to Baphomet, the goat man, a symbol for Satan. Now the real meaning of this cross, it is the Templar cross. As I have proven in other videos, the Templars became the self-styled Freemasons, and they control every government and corporation on earth as well as mainstream religion, and atheist movements such as communism. The Templar cross that Hitler wore has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points, and Mussolini's star here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rays. Both of them refer to the star of Ishtar, of the land Babylon, where was the Tower of Babel, when mankind united under Satan to try to conquer heaven. That is what it refers to. Satan's desire to steal heaven. They were advancing the New World Order agenda for the unity of the world, the new Tower of Babel, as it were, under Satan to defy God and, by the delusion of Satan, in his delusion, defeat God. But Hitler was a creationist, yes, and in his real creationism, Satan is God to him. He pretended to be a Catholic when it was convenient, and Catholics are heretics. See my series on heretics. He pretended to be a Catholic when convenient, but his creationism was actually Luciferianism. And atheists are pawns of the synagogue of Satan, as the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion cover. So it's a reference to the star of Ishtar, and it is a satanic symbol, both of these stars, as well as a swastika. All of them refer to Satan. And that bird on both of their hats is the phoenix, representing the Antichrist, who will counterfeit resurrection. And this is Goring. I explain about the Templars and how they came to conquer the world, and the British Empire was not the biggest part 2. And more on them in Mario's of the Devil part 2, and how Masons conquered the entire world, including Japan, originally being Templars. Mein Kampf means my struggle. This is a reference not just to Hitler's struggle, but more so to Satan's struggle to try to conquer heaven, hence the diagonal as below, so above stripe here, matching the tarot card, the magician, as below, so above. See my video, Constantine was a puppet of the Jews, of which I have 3 parts, of course. Why did he do stupid things like divide the empire, weakening the western part, by which it could fall, and thereby Jews, whose country was destroyed by Rome, had their revenge? Because Constantine was a puppet of the Jews, just like Hitler, as was Napoleon. He advanced liberalism to undermine Gentile monarchies, which, according to the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, were the only visible obstacle to their plan for total domination of the nations. Mozart, the German, worshipped Satan too. And Washington. And Bolivar. Watch this documentary about the global satanic cult with tentacles everywhere. Are the protocols fake? Not entirely, as I proved in that video. They say their anti-Semitism is necessary to enable us to control our smaller brethren. So Hitler, according to the protocols, was their tool. The tool of the Elders of Zion. The hypocrisy of people who mock conspiracy theorists. Oh, it's a conspiracy, so it's wrong. Oh, really? You haven't proven that it's wrong. You're committing an argument from ignorance fallacy. You're stupid. Dismissing it without proving it wrong just shows your prejudice, and that you deserve to believe in the lies of the Disney version of reality that you were inculcated with and refuse to question, like a non-free thinker that you are.
Conspiracy theories are stupid, except ours. World War I began because of conspiracy of assassination of the Archduke.
Now, theaters of war. While the casualties are real, the generals, top-tier generals, are actors. They know they're just manipulating people, and their orders are by manipulators also. Hence, really, really stupid decisions that they made, such as will be covered. So, there was a series of land grabs. Despite all this, Britain and France led Germany conquer most of Central Europe, and some of Western Europe, and some of Eastern. So, it says here, Hitler was allowed by Britain and France to take back the Saar region, remilitarize the Rhineland, and begin rearming Germany, absorb Österreich, and then, after the München Conference, take over the Sudetenland. So, and then only after he invaded Poland did Britain and France finally make a stand, except they didn't really make a stand. They were just talking with no action. So Britain and France were actually helping Germany all along, and that was exactly what the leaders intended. And people who believed the newspapers were like, oh, the governors, they're just stupid. They're just cowards. No, they're not. They're doing it on purpose. You're being manipulated, and you are all deceived. And there was a senator from the divided snakes of America who said, there is something phony about this war. See, it's so fake that it's even in mainstream history referred to as phony. The phony war. For 8 months, there was virtually no allied military, there were no military land operations on the Western Front. Virtually none. Month after 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 month, it's absolutely ridiculous, and it was obviously deliberate. And only an absolute fool would deny that. And they even ceded Norway to Germany. They not only helped them by not doing anything about anything, they ran away from Norway and let Germany take it. Maginot Line, let's defend France and let's make a huge gap, which is easy to go through.
Hon hon hon, stupid Germany, regardez-moi défensivement. It is impossible. What shall you do now? Maybe nothing, haha, vous are beaten. You are of leave, haha, très bien, victoire. Ô armée citoyen, formavons bataillon.
The dictator orders his tanks to stop the advance. He saved the British. The British didn't save themselves. Hitler saved them. Why, if Hitler was intending to help Germany rise to global hegemony, did he prevent it? Why was he the main obstacle to Germany's success? Because he was never in power to advance Germany. That was just what he claimed to do. In reality, he was advancing the Satanic New World Order agenda to create Israel. Hitler's belief that the British would more readily negotiate if he was nice to them. Oh, really? Then he would have been nice to Russia for the same reason. So that's a stupid lie. But he saw Slavs as inferior. He was allied with the Japanese, who are clearly less closely related to Germans. So that doesn't work, that pretext. For Dunkirk, Hitler believed that once Britain's troops left continental Europe, they would never return. No. Mainstream history is really idiotic. Because Hitler knew that the British were not going to give up because they're proud. Hitler knew that the British are proud, and they were not going to give up without a fight. So that's the Disney version of reality. But most people believe this because people don't question the establishment, and they're stupid. The invasion plans were not adopted, the invasion of Britain by the Nazis, because of the sustained offensive of the retarded Air Force. Really? Well, if you look at a map and you consider the logistics, you will see that if Germany didn't attack the Russians, they could have easily overwhelmed Britain. It would be just a matter of time that their air defenses could no longer defend the British, because for Britain to get reinforcements, it would have to be from the other side of the world, like Australia or wherever. And that takes a long time and a lot more effort than Germany crossing into Britain. Even if the Germans were unable to meet the level of caliber of the planes that the British were using, it's just a matter of numbers. The weak can wear down the great if they have overwhelming numbers and time on their side. So it was just a matter of time. The British were surrounded by Nazis in the south and the east. And they were isolated. Despite having the biggest empire, because the Spanish had finished, the biggest empire had finished, and then the second biggest was around, the British. It was just, I mean, really, you need to think for yourself, people. And by the way, the communist symbol is a symbol of Satan, because that's the moon with the morning star, Venus. And the hammer is a symbol in Masonry. Anyway, they say that the most significant oil fields were in regions of Norway not fully exploited during the war because the Germans weren't trying to get oil from Norway. They were trying to have a pretext to invade Russia, which was to get oil. But it would be cheaper to buy oil from Russia than to go into war prematurely without finishing the Western threat, the British. They were doing two threats at once. So Hitler first attacks the British, and then he spares them. He saves his enemies. Absolute nonsense. And without finishing the first front, which he could have, as I explained, he starts attacking the bear without finishing off the bulldog first. He wasn't that stupid. He was smart enough to manipulate millions of people. He knew what he was doing. He was just an agent. And they say, someone asked, since the Germans didn't have enough oil during World War II, why didn't they just import it from Italy's colony in Africa? You know, there were better alternatives than surrounding yourself with enemies. Why was that the best? No, that was not the best. That was the worst decision. And Hitler was not so stupid. He knew what he was doing, just like Napoleon did. And look, the Soviet Union gave Germany oil. They still had oil. There was no problem. It was not going to run out. They were still getting oil. So that's nonsense, mainstream history. They had more than one resource, more than one source of oil flow. Not just the Russians, but also they could have had Africa and others. They had their own oil in Norway. They refused to take that oil. Nonsense. Hitler accidentally stretched supply lines for Russia's winter. No, he knew what he was doing. Just like Napoleon. They knew the logistics. You have to be really gullible to believe the mainstream story that both of them were so bad at war and so ignorant that they didn't know about supply lines and that you need to have enough. Of course they knew. They put their armies in peril on purpose to decimate their own fighters because they were not advancing the interest of their respective countries. That was just the pretext. People were being manipulated for the New World Order agenda.
Hitler didn't know about logistics. He didn't know.
Yeah, sure.
The Luftwaffe lacked the bombers for strategic bombing because it did not consider that worthwhile. Oh wow, the most useful kind of planes were not considered useful. Oh no, they were considered useful. They were deliberately not using them because the leader, Hitler, was a misleader and he intended to cripple Germany. That was the plan. The Luftwaffe was poorly coordinated with overall German strategy on purpose and never ramped up to the size and scope needed in a total war, even though they could have. They refused to.
Germany accidentally refused to make its air force big. They lost on purpose. I mean, accidentally, not on purpose. It looked like it was on purpose. But it's just an accident. Believe that. Because it makes perfect sense. Because we're all saying it. And if everyone believes it, it must be true.
Japan attacked Pearl Harbor to prevent something. Really, what did it prevent? What did it prevent? The only thing Japan prevented was its own victory by antagonizing the giant, which Templar Japanese leaders knew. They weren't that stupid because they were advancing the Satanic New World Order agenda, not Japan's welfare. See about the transfer agreement. The dramatic Nazi supposed rescue of supposed Jews from Nazi Germany and its territories to the Holy Land. They don't teach you this in schools, except maybe as a footnote that they gloss over. Let's create racist Israel. Ja. Ich liebe Israel. Siegheil. Do-do-do, do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do. Hitler's supposedly Jewish ancestry, or Ashkenazi, to be precise.
То, что аргумент он выдвигает, какая может быть у нас нацификация, когда я еврей, я, если правильно помню, боюсь ошибиться, но, по-моему, у Гитлера тоже была еврейская кровь.
Some have suggested that his father, Alois, born to an unwed woman named Maria Schickelgruber, was the bastard of Leopold Frankenberger, a young Ashkenazi Khazar fake Jew whose family employed her as a maid. She subsequently married Johann Georg Hitler, later spelled Hitler, whose surname her son adopted. And of course, the Khazars, who considered themselves to be Jews, when they moved into Germany, in order to fit in, because they were secularized, they were made into atheists, many of them, or deistic, or similar to atheists, living like atheists. They wanted to fit into the pagan culture, the German culture, so they adopted German ways and German names. But they could never really fully fit in. See, by the way, my series, Greeks, Latins, Iberians, and Jews were and are not blonde. A Spanish conquistador puts accusers of genocide in their place. Proof I'm Spanish, European, and white. Racist Goth wishes he were a real Spaniard. Nazis were macroevolutionists. Hitler followed Darwin. Brits were worse than Nazis, and many of them still are worse. Nietzsche ist tot. God killed him. NATO is the Nazi mafia of truthphobes and rainbow thieves. Look at the swastika implied by the NATO logo, the NATARD logo. Zionism is heresy. Gandhi did not free India, Hitler did. The end.